Hello everyone, welcome to another COYS Live. Nice to see everyone here. Got a few faces joining us. Hi, I'm Chris, cdcd. I'm hosting today and trying to keep our guests to behave themselves and hopefully keep it in a reasonable hour as well. So we've got Lex and we've got Nick there. Let them say hello.
Hello.
Hey.
So we've got quite a bit to talk about, despite the fact it's an international weekend. Since we last did this, same panel I think it was, wasn't it? We've had 4 Premier League games, 10 points from that lot. Probably we'll talk about them sort of all together because I'm not sure I really want to pick for every single one of them bit by bit. But how do you think they all went, guys? Lex, do you want to start us off? What was your sort of take on the 4?
Well, I think it was a bit. I mean, there's always difference between performance and results. But if you look at the results against Newcastle and also West Ham, they were disappointing. But the performances were quite good for a long point of time. We controlled the game, didn't concede chances. Then, unfortunately, Newcastle got that pulled back from a VAR incident in a game we should have controlled, should have closed. But in terms of result-wise, they weren't that good early on, but the performances were good, and we controlled the games. Basically, West Ham, of course, we had a breakdown last 10 minutes, but again, overall, a good performance, but a bad result. I think that's part of the story. And then you have the games that came after that, where we looked tired, I think. And I'm not so sure whether the performances were not good and the results were good. So actually the opposite of what happened before. So I think it's kind of 2 halves, but with opposite headlines, you know, results over performances and performances versus results. And it's a bit worrying what we've been seeing the last couple of games, because I'm not sure if we're over-muscling the team to face other teams that are physical and giving up our game style, or we're just not succeeding in imposing a game style we want, which is also worrying. So I think there are a little bit worrying signs here, either from tiredness or from strategical choices from Mourinho. And I'm not really sure which one is the case.
I thought
and that's my impression.
In the West Ham game, and some of the other Premier League games, like the Newcastle at home game, I know we talked about that, we should have been 3-4 up, but you don't always finish your chances. We deserve to win that 1-0. We were robbed, basically, in that game. It was nothing to do with the team for me. You can always criticise something, but the West Ham game, going forward, we looked absolutely ridiculously good. I think we looked like a title contending team, the way we were going forward, the speed of the attacks, the fluency, the way we just ripped through them. And I remember in commentary in the first half, they were, Carragher was saying, I think, West Ham just can't cope. They're not playing very well, I think he said at one point. And I completely disagreed. I thought West Ham were playing really well, actually. Yeah. We were just another level above. And that's why they always had some kind of control in the game with us, but we were just ridiculously good going forward. And the second half, I feel like we took our foot off the gas a little bit. And, the story of us, all 3 goals came from set pieces. Every goal they scored from came from a set piece. First goal was direct. The second goal got cleared out, came back in and across own goal. And the third goal, again, got cleared, didn't clear it properly. And it's a wonder goal as well, to be fair.
But even then, I think in that game, though we did concede the late goals, again, a lot of the goals, they've been set piece based or indirectly from set piece. So we're not getting cut through, even when we do give up possession to a certain extent. But I think in the West Ham game, I think the big difference versus West Ham and Brighton, for example, was in the West Ham game, even when we did give up possession, it was often 30 meters from goal, 35 meters. So they were launching long balls into the box that we could control and head away. It wasn't like they were packing the area and it was panic until the very last. And so I think it's a bit different against Brighton. So we fell really deep and we started losing an ability to stay composed and control the possession and also play into space. So I think this, even with West Ham, even though they did come back and even though they did score some goals they shouldn't have scored, even then, I think it wasn't as bad as some of the things we saw versus Brighton, for example, or some of the other games where we start losing control, losing the ability to attack the space, lose the courage to play the ball through midfield and into space in a controlled manner. We just launch it. And we don't even launch it well. We
kept launching it the last few games, the amount of long balls to Son. It's Son up there. And that's one thing I just quickly wanted to touch on was I think we've taken our tactics were working brilliantly with Kane dropping off and Son making runs behind him.
Yeah.
And I think the worry is sometimes when something works, you overdo it and you actually forget why it was working in the first place. So now, for example, in elements of the West Brom game and the Brighton game, Kane was constantly too deep and Son was constantly too central. The reason Son's so dangerous is because he makes those runs from the left channel and loses sight of the defenders. If he's just standing centrally, he's easier to pick up for defenders. And I think there was an element of that maybe coming in, Lex, where we become a bit lazy we're thinking, well, I'm scoring so many goals here, Son, that I'm just going to stand in a central area and forget the reason he was so dangerous in the first place, which is his movement from the sides.
Yeah, the later he moves, the more dangerous it is, isn't it? I mean, there's a couple of things I thought. I mean, there was some talk about are we giving the opposition too much respect, not imposing our game enough? The other thing I thought in terms of like personnel was that it did feel there was a conscious effort, I felt, by some players not to play the ball through midfield because only Højbjerg's taking it in there and they felt reluctant to give it to Sissoko. Should we not be playing Ndombele deeper now? Or is it a trust issue?
But that's the thing, though. That's also what I mean. Like, are we playing these kind of last couple of games? We're playing that way partially out of choice because we want to muscle up, and like instead of taking control of the game via possession control, we're like trying to face them physically more and make it more of the kind of game they actually like to play. Yeah. So this is my worry. Like, I'm not really sure. Are we doing it by choice, by tiredness, or are the players not following instructions? Are we doing it because we're not imposing a game we actually want to play? But it definitely is. We're definitely making it more of a kind of even playing field against teams where we're not really benefiting from playing at their playing field. You know, like against Brighton, even though people say they're a good footballing team. I mean, they can maintain possession playing it behind the block, but they're not really great in playing in the small spaces. They'll launch and then across into the box. But my point is this, like, for example, there's two ways of facing an organized, aggressive, physical team. Either you can meet them with physicality or you can try and increase your ability on the ball, basically, and use it well and make them run after it and defend with the ball by keeping possession. But we seem to go the other way. We downgrade our footballing ability to some extent, trying to face them physically.
Trying to outfight them.
Yeah, making exactly the kind of game that they want to make it. And it becomes more messy and it becomes more... And I think in that time we lack the ability to play the ball. So... naturally we feel more pressed and launch it more or fall deeper. And I think when we fall deep, Mourinho doesn't want to play it out. I think maybe as part of it, when we start launching it, it's because we recoup possession so low. And it doesn't want to play it through midfield in front of our own box, so we'll just launch it.
Burnley,
this thing, I'm not so sure how much is instructions.
I think it's instructions. And I'll tell you why. Burnley game, in the build-up, Mourinho made a massive thing about what a tough game this is going to be. It's going to be really physical, and made a massive thing of it. And it was almost like self-fulfilling prophecy. It became that kind of match, and we matched up to that. And it was like he was making out like Burnley as some impossible titan to try and go to. And yes, it can be a very tough away game, but they're not playing very well at the moment, and you can get at them. And the best example of that was the following week, because Chelsea went there and they played Mount, Havertz, and I think it was Kante in midfield, right? So Kante's the only one with any kind of defensive ability there. Mount and Havertz are not centre midfielders; they're attacking midfielders. And they went there and they had Werner, Abraham. I think it was I can't remember who else was up front. It was an attacking lineup though. It was ridiculous. And they dominated them. And they dominated them, and they blitzed. I think it might be and they blitzed them. And it just showed you don't have to play.
But that's the thing.
In a certain.
But that's the thing, though. It's a matter about. I agree. And but that's also a matter. It always becomes this mix between instructions and personnel. Like you also have to have the personnel to execute instructions. So if the personnel is too tired or they're simply not of the right type, you're not going to be able to execute this kind of like strategy. And that's the thing about we're talking now about Ndombele and Lo Celso. Lo Celso is only coming back now, and the interesting thing now is where we've had this downturn of performances and this trying to over muscle up against physical sides, which is probably counterproductive. Are we now going to start playing more ball players together in midfield and try and control possession more?
I hope so.
Hopefully, but we'll see. But so far, whenever we've had the choice, it's been a ball player for ball player, you know, and then Lo Celso is not fully fit, so it might also be that. But
he obviously wants one of them
really
coming off the
Mourinho.
bench.
What is Mourinho? But what is Mourinho 2020? Like, he has evolved somewhat. He's more aggressive in the press. He will stand higher now. He doesn't want to defend as deep as he did before. He does.
I
I
think
mean, he always actually did enjoy ball players, but they just were forced to play a simpler game in his past. But right now, when he gets the choice, when we do have everybody fit, if that happens, will we start trying to remain in possession more, control games via possessional control?
I
Will we
hope so,
dare to
because
play
we've
in the
shown we can
small
do it
spaces
though.
low?
The thing I
This is
don't,
the thing,
it really
and this
frustrated
is
me.
what
We've
I'm.
shown we can do it, and we look
And
good when we do it.
yeah,
Well, I'm just
but
going
this
to
is
go back to
why
your comments.
I'm very insecure about.
Simspurs has written a few things. I mean, is the Celso and on Dembele issue, is it a fitness issue or is it one or the other?
This is what I'm saying.
Well, he did say it was fitness. So I'm hoping we can have them both in at some point, because I think we would look a lot better with Dembele taking the ball, and therefore the pressure off the defenders, I think, as well. Also, long balls are fine. You need, but not if you're doing non-stop. So it's the element.
Yeah, exactly. You got to do
what you were saying?
mix it up.
Yeah, about
And with an idea in mind.
Yeah,
you can't just launch them.
Yeah, you got to have
the later the song goes, the more dangerous it'll be, I think. So if there's no movement, he's not going to do anything. If he goes late, he's more likely to have some joy.
But when we play against City, for example, the long ball could be absolutely fantastic for us on the counter-attack if we play the right kind of long ball. You're talking about a Toby long diagonal into the space that Walker or if it's Mendy playing or Zinchenko leave, and that's the space for Sonny to exploit and get in. And then Kane can drop in around Rodri, because I don't particularly think Rodri's that great defensively, certainly not compared to like Fernandinho when they had him. So Kane should get more pockets of space in those areas to dink a ball into him or play a quick pass. So there's time and a place for those long passes, but there's a difference between a long pass and just a aimless hoof. And I think we've been doing too many aimless hoofs. And I was really annoyed because I felt like we cut down a lot on that. And I was starting to think, we look like a really good side here now. And I'm starting to think, Mourinho has got this. Like second season, I'm going to take my hat off to him, because we are playing a completely different style of football against United. I know they only had 10 men, but we controlled the game for the whole. Even after we went 1-0 down, we controlled that game for long periods, and we looked like a top side, a slick side that could move the ball, could get stuck in, and could counter and break teams down. It was a really rounded
That was those
team.
3 games in a row, though. We had those 3 games in a row where we largely performed well. We didn't always get the results, but we performed well.
We looked exceptional.
And we performed well inside a system of play where we played the ball quickly into space. We tried to keep it better. We shifted the sides when we got under pressure, because that's the thing. When he doesn't want to play this quick, short, triangular football, it's fair enough. But then just like Liverpool, we've been trying to do that where we shifted quite well, played behind and then shifted to the other side.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of that formation. And this is where we stopped doing that to some extent as well when we came under pressure, both in the Europa League and also in the Premier League. And that's the thing. It's a bit worrying because performance-wise, we've been regressing somewhat. And I don't know how much is selections, how much is tiredness, how much is
was some of it the West Ham game, Lex? Was some of it psychological off of what happened?
I think
in
it was.
West Ham game?
I don't think this, for me, West Ham was more like a blip, a psychological blip mainly. It wasn't because they weren't following instructions as much, the players. Mm-hmm. Against the Brighton and some of the Europa League, we were almost back to where it looked like they're not even following the game plan anymore, because it's not just about maintaining possession and playing it well short and control. Not even the side switch, which we know Mourinho wants, the moment we're under pressure. Not even that, what we were doing. Like, we were playing it into closed areas, short passes when we were closed down, not playing across the pitch.
We looked out of sorts, didn't we, as a team?
Yeah, we didn't press
any
high
one
enough.
player. And
we fell too low too quickly when we're defending. Like,
a good example is how good Ndombele looked in some of those earlier games. In the last couple of games, he struggled a bit more to get in the game. And an element of that is maybe he's a bit too high up. I do agree there, Chris. Maybe you should be a bit deeper. But I think also because we're not playing with that same fluency, he struggles to get into a rhythm when we're doing that kind of, like you're saying, a bit all over the place with our tactics. It's hard for someone like Tongi to get in the game. And at the moment, he isn't at a level where he can dictate every Premier League game. He hasn't got to that yet. He needs to do a lot more work to get there. He can get there one day. But I think at the moment, we're not helping certain players in our team with the way we've kind of evolved in the last few matches. But must say we have got the results, and hopefully if we can get results when we don't play well, it's a good thing. My only concern would be, I think there's a difference between not playing well and getting a result and getting a little bit lucky with results. And I think there's an element of getting a little bit lucky over the last couple of games, and it's not sustainable. I saw it before with AVB. It reminds me a little bit, not as bad as that. We've got better players, we've got a better manager. But a little bit of that, it's not sustainable, and you can see it. It's not sustainable. for me.
Another thing is if you play on transitions mainly, at a certain point, the other team's just going to stand low, or they're gonna figure out a way to stop your transitioning by pressing, for example, pressing certain ways. So there's always going to be tactical adaptation to the way you play, and then you have to do like Liverpool does, since that it's not they're very good transitional side, but the moment they can transition, they just grind you down by side shifting it, crossing it into like drill runs. It's not great football or very imagined football. They will get those 1-2 goals and then only let in 0.8 or used to before they got all the injuries.
Newcastle sat back and we absolutely tore them apart. It should have been 3-4-0 up. We had no problem creating chances against Newcastle, and they sat back deep and they're actually quite good at it as well under Bruce. They get a lot of bodies in there and make it tough. And we had no problem with that. And it was a different way. It was the tempo. It was the way we were moving the ball quickly, sharply and fluid. And I don't know, there's a big difference.
In general, you always start to look less impressive with time. Also because we are playing to a certain kind of very set expression that it's not super variated. So it is kind of, you can analyze how we would likely attack, which spaces we would likely take when, and teams can start to phase us, prepare for us. So I don't think we'll change that because most teams do like that. But then you just be good enough doing those 3-4 solutions you have to face that, to get one goal more than a position while not conceding. It's exactly what Liverpool has been doing for a long time. Like they're not doing as many transition goals anymore. They're doing it. The other team stand low. They'll cut it back, isolate shift it, isolate the wing back in a one-on-one. Then you have 2 or 3 runs being made in front of him, and he can either go in, shoot, cross. He'll switch positions with the runner. Like they only have 3 or 4 options and solutions mainly, but it's just enough.
They get so many bodies in the box as well.
But again, it's all they take positions. If you see 100 goals in Liverpool, you'll quite quickly see the pattern repeating itself.
Definitely. There's a definite
It's a pattern. It's not a very complicated pattern, but it's a pattern.
One thing I was going to say about the matches we've had is I have noticed a difference in both defending and attacking set pieces. Our attacking set pieces across the last few games have gone up a level because we seem to have real patterns to our set pieces. And there's in particular is the one we scored against Burnley. I've actually seen it, and I also read an article on Twitter about this, so someone else had pointed it out. The same kind of move in every game since, and we've nearly scored in every game from it. And I'm really encouraged by the creativity of our set pieces and the way we actually we seem to be structuring the movements off the ball much better.
Exactly.
It used to be a bit of a weakness of ours. No one would ever attack the far post, for example. We'd all go to the near post and leave the far post completely free.
It would be a little bit more Redknapp-esque, like go in and run around a bit.
A little bit.
But Mourinho's not this kind of coach. Mourinho's exactly like Klopp is in the sense that he will drill patterns of play, and then of course the players should have 3 or 4 solutions in a given pattern that they can choose from in the moment. But the pattern itself, they know, and they're doing training all the time. I think this is also why you're seeing this explosion of Son and Kane, because before they had a very large framework where they were left to kind of then improvise, which means that when you look up, you're not exactly sure whether there's going to be, maybe you misunderstood his intentions. You're not going to get that repeatability of speed and timing of movement between 2 or more players. Now it's almost like a coordinated theater show, in they know exactly that when. So if they look at it now as well, when Lo Celso's on the pitch, he's the 10 on the right side, and Kane will normally be on the. It's like the shape is very much drilled. The movements versus where the ball is very much drilled, which is a strength but also a weakness because we become more predictable, but we also become better and slicker and quicker at executing.
That's where you need better individuals with more individual creativity, like and Ndombele and Lo Celso on the pitch at the same time, because they have that spark that can introduce, and particularly Tongi with that element of unpredictability that you need. I think that's why Mourinho likes playing him.
Or even shoot from distance and can as well. I mean, he can give that variation to, but also another thing is when he gets his head up, he can see those 4 options and choose the right one in that given situation of game. But my point is this, it's a weakness, a strength that we are becoming more of a modular team that are repeating certain patterns, certain ways of playing. And I don't think we're going to become this tiki-taka team when the other teams do pack themselves against us. But we are likely going to become more and more like Pool. We even played the same shape, basically, where once that happens, we have a general solution to the problem, which is avoiding the compact space by shifting the ball out and creating one-on-ones, basically. And then we have 2 or 3 drill solutions to that shift.
I have to take my hat off to you, Lex. Højbjerg has been Absolutely.
Should we move on to that then? Do you want to review?
Yeah.
Sorry, this is very 2020. I'm getting Zoom bombed horrendously.
I'm kind of getting a vision of what it's going to be like for me in the future here, Chris. Don't worry.
I muted myself. You just turn the light off. Brilliant. Okay. Apologies. So, do you want to talk about the various summer signings and their impact they've had? I'm going to mute myself and just because otherwise.
Well, we'll start with Højbjerg then.
Yeah,
because he's certainly shown that he can play DM, which was my biggest concern. And I don't really know what else to say about him because I just think he's been. The Everton game he was poor, as were everyone. I think he was playing more centre midfield in that game anyway. But since he shifted back, wow, is the only thing I can say. Wow, it's just been so good. Everything, every element of his game, quick moving, the ball, good passing, 95% of the time, which is fine. Everyone gives it away. Fantastic reading of being in the right position to break up attacks. I just wanted to see what you thought. You're not too surprised because you thought he might do well, but did you expect him to be this good this quickly?
Well, I didn't expect him to play this role, to be honest. I thought he was going to play this. Well, he's playing a double pivot, but he's playing almost as a straight six. I think this is also why he's shining, because you were a bit worried about his positional discipline, which used to be a problem for him. But I did notice that at Southampton, that changed quite a lot in last year. So I wasn't worried about that. That's why I wasn't that worried about him being intelligent or tactically disciplined enough. But I was expecting him to be more in this kind of like role he had at Southampton, in which it looked like we were going to play as well, where one of the eights will help in the pressing and the other one sits back, but it's changing all the time who does what. And it seems that when Reguilón arrived, which might be the most important thing about Reguilón arriving, besides him being a good player, we changed to a balanced system. So now suddenly, it's much more easy for the players to understand who's supposed to be where all the time, also defensively. Because there's no man, he's on the right, so I push in, and then it was way too complicated to react quickly before. And I think that's also why distinctly we had.
We all said
when we still had the old system. We still had the old system. It was the last game we played in that weird hybrid system. But I think also Mourinho has realized that he's so good leaning back and reading the game versus pressing, which is one of the things he was supposed to be so good at. He is good at. But now he's being allowed to sit back and read more and then intervene where the problem might be arising or where you can stop a play from arising. So he's playing also true six, where you get that luxury. Yeah. He has the luxury now of reading the game and sitting back, which you can't always do when you're up pressing high. So I think he's being allowed that. Mourinho is quite good at it, and it's allowed him a more true, like, selective defensive role where he's reading the game and then intervening, rather than like running about after the ball and pressing high all the time. So I think that suited him. I think it suited more even than I thought. Yeah.
If he keeps this level of performance up across the season, he will be one of the two best defensive midfielders in the league, probably with Fabinho, because Kante isn't playing as much anymore. He doesn't play in a holding role. So I would say Fabinho and Højbjerg, if he plays like this.
But Højbjerg also, have you noticed how strong he is physically?
Yeah, he just brushes people off.
Physical ability.
It's not quite yet, but it's not that far off. It's not far off. He brushes people off.
But he's got this potency about him, and his timing of intervening, and it's like,
and he also knows when to foul.
Difficult.
He knows when to foul much better than Winks and Sissoko, I feel like.
He's the one player we don't have anyone to replace him with. No one else can do the job.
Skip, but he's on loan, and I wish Skip was learning from him. Honestly, the way he's playing at the moment, it's perfect to learn from him.
I struggle with that. I struggle with because one of the things I said previously, and I still stand by it, was that I was really pleased. One of the first things we did when the season ended last year was we got Skip out on loan.
Oh, I agree. I said the same. Yeah,
he needs to be first choice and have that season next year. Brilliant, because I think we'll go on to this in a bit in terms of about the transfer business you might want to do. But ideally, next season, he's the backup. He comes back in. And I think it's worth this season for his development, just saying, no, you're out there. You're out in Norwich. You're doing your thing.
Yeah, I think it's fair enough. I think we all said about it's a good move, so I'm not going to turn around and say it's not a good move now. It's just, I think it's more frustrating because you wish you could have. Yeah, you do. Yeah. You want the best of both worlds because Højbjerg at the moment is a fantastic place for him to learn from as well, because he has some of the attributes that Hobby has. He reads the game very well. He's relatively quick across those first 5, 10, 15 yards. And he's aggressive. He has that aggression naturally. And that's what Hobby has just been like a captain without an armband. I think it was said. And that is exactly how he's played.
Yeah.
The first game, he didn't play well. But again, no one played well. We were terrible against Everton. I've written that game off. But even in these games that we've struggled recently, performance-wise, like West Brom, second half, West Brom, he rolled up his sleeves and he just got stuck into the game, and he tried his best constantly to drive us on and get us back to, to winning that match, basically. And I felt like his tenacity and desire helped us get over the line, even if he wasn't directly involved in the goal.
Moving on slightly, because obviously I think we all agree Højbjerg's been
other players, yeah.
What about Doherty?
Struggling a little bit. I think he's struggling to adapt to the four at the back mainly, and he doesn't look entirely confident and comfortable yet. But he did provide a fantastic assist against West Brom. It was a lovely ball in, the kind of diagonal that he played in. But yeah, he hasn't done as well as I was hoping he might do. But he has upped the level of Aurier, I feel like, in majority of games. So that's good.
I also feel a little bit like he's not had much of a pre-season, and maybe that's not helped either.
I think he's still huffing and puffing a bit.
Well,
I think he's still playing himself. He's
playing a very different role. Playing fullback, back four, attacking fullback is very different to playing as a wing back.
Not just that. He arrived to the hybrid system, so had to learn a new system that was kind of similar to his old system, but still a new system. And then regionalized, and then it's a new system again, playing a fullback role he hasn't played for, 8-9 years. And and then now also physically maybe as
more demanding.
Said, maybe he is a tall, heavy player. They take time getting into shape.
He's making a few too many passing errors for me. He's giving the ball away cheaply, and I expected him to do better there because for Wolves he was quite efficient in that area, keeping the ball, moving the ball quite well and cleverly. And he did it. I think I can't remember which game it was, but one of his earlier games he moved the ball quite well, and I was like, yeah, I expected him to do this. But recent games he's given it away quite cheaply at times, and expected more from him.
But this is the thing we were talking about performances. I'm not so sure. Sometimes I'm very, when we're critiquing the team, the performances, how much is it the players are just tired and not doing what they've been asked to do or not capable of it? And how much is because we're not asking them to do a certain thing which we would like to see them do? For example, the side shifting and the cutting it back and the media side shift. Because Reguilón as well. But I don't know how much of it is tiredness. That's the whole point. There's been, I think we have a very clear way we want to play. But we haven't always done it lately in the last couple of games. It could be partially down to the selection choices.
Progression isn't always a straight line. Sometimes you take a step back and then you take a couple of steps forward. So obviously we'll see over the next kind of 6-7 games because that's going to really tell us a lot about how good we really are, because it's a ridiculously hard run. If we come out of that with pretty good points tally, and we show glimpses of good performances, then you can say, well, all right, we're looking good. If we really struggle, then it shows that the latest performances have been a worrying trend and the results have dried up.
One thing I would say in defence of Doherty,
one of the things I think
is that he's gone from having, obviously one thing being hard at the pitch, but also playing with Neves and Moutinho, who are much cleverer players than in terms of their passing and their movement.
Soko's right side of midfield,
which are much more which are much more. It's different. Our midfielders have got different strengths, and also I think he looked better with Lamela ahead of him as well, rather than Lucas. I think it just the contrast.
It seemed to have a decent understanding with Bale in the first Europa League they played together. I think they showed a decent understanding, Doherty and Bale. But obviously Bale's still kind of building fitness. But I don't know if you want to talk about Gareth next or Reguilón. Who do you want to talk about, Chris?
Let's go Bale. Let's go Bale.
That's very interesting, I think.
It looked really rusty to start with, although he nearly scored a wonder goal against West Ham straight away. That didn't go in. I think he's definitely starting to look better bit by bit. West Brom game didn't really get in it, but again, Lex, I think you agree here. The way we're playing didn't suit someone trying to get in the game because it was just so. What's the word? It was so fractured. The way we were playing, fragmented. It was hard for anyone to really look smooth in that game going forward. I felt. My biggest concern at the moment. Is at the moment he hasn't got enough of a turn of pace in terms of acceleration. I don't expect him to be able to sprint at the full speed he used to be able to, but you've got to be able to show a change of pace.
Yeah.
Change of pace just to beat someone.
To get off the cross,
to get off the cross, get off the shot. And the good example of that was the ball Kane played into him against West Brom, where he drifted it into the middle. And Bale, if you watch a replay, ran, but he ran at the same speed. There was no real boom, I'm gone, and change of acceleration to get there. But that could be an element of sharpness still coming back into his game and being comfortable with his body again.
Maybe he doesn't trust his body yet. Maybe he doesn't trust that his muscles will stick up to
we only need
explosive movements.
We only need a little bit more explosive movement, and that little margin will make a big difference to his game. So
he needs to trust himself to do it.
He needs to
but I think,
himself.
but even if that doesn't come back, I think we talked about this when we signed him, that who is Bale 2020? Like, it's not. He is going to be a different player, of course, but also because it's quite normal for like heavy, explosive Northwestern European players to start losing the pace and becoming quite heavy quite quickly in the late 20s, early 30s. But so it's always going to be a question mark. How much is he going to get or still have of that, or get it back in this case? And it still is a question mark. I'm not, and a turn of pace, maybe enough to get a shot off or a pass. I think what has been more disappointing, I was expecting him to take time there and maybe not even get it back. I think what's been a little bit more disappointing or worrying is the, like you call it, rustiness. But we know he's developed as a positional player and a passer and a deciding player in the last third at rail, often going between the lines, joining the passing play well, putting through balls, shining technically in terms of passing and shooting and crossing. And we haven't really seen that. Like, even without the pace, I would expect to see more of his influence in the game, in the passing game, in his decisions, in joining play. Very few. Just want to say, like, there's no way where you see a really good player, even when they're not there physically, unless they're extremely rusty and low in contact, you'll see a touch once in a while, or you see a through ball, or you'll see an amazing pass suddenly splits. He's not. I would expect some of that to come through sometimes, or at least more often than we have. But he is refining confidence, and he is rusty. But I would have expected a little bit more, although in glimpses.
After 7 years, so it's a big step up in tempo, and I don't think I fully appreciated how long he'd really gone without playing football consistently, and what an impact that can have at that age. So he needs time.
That's my point. I think he was. That's my point. I think he was much lower in terms of a lack of self-confidence and
than we thought.
Speed of game than we thought. And I didn't think it would be that bad. But I think we have to be honest and say he's been very far from match. Not match fit. He was very far from being match fit.
It was very, very rusty. Particularly the first 2 or 3 games, he looked very rusty. Yeah. I thought he showed. He's shown a little bit more in even the West Brom game. He didn't play great, but there was a couple of moments where he made a run off and Tongi tried to slip him in down the inside right. And it was a good run. It was a good movement. He didn't quite get past that defender to get his right-footed shot away, but he showed a little bit more zip to make that run. I said, all right, this is good.
Yeah, but I'm talking about less physicality.
Yeah, I know.
More about even decisions and
his pass to
cuteness,
Kane against Ludogorets, for example, was superb. It was fantastic. The weight of the pass, the angle, it gave Kane the easy square for Lucas. I think he's shown, but he just needs to do it more consistently, Lex. I totally agree. He needs to. I think hopefully over time, maybe by Christmas, if he stays fit, Christmas, January, we'll see more. I mean, we can keep him another season and get more out of him.
It's very much sort of like he could be the wild card after Christmas to take us from sort of January.
Listen, if he comes back and gets sharper, and we are in a title race, he could be the difference of us winning it. He's that good. If he gets 70% of the level he was at, he could win us. He's already won us 1 game against Brighton, right? Yeah. Let's be fair. He's won us the game there because we were struggling, and he's come up with that header. And all right, it's a header, but it's a great header, and he's won us that game. So he's already contributed.
I think was it Scholes who said in the studio after that, at least I think I had Scholes in the studio after that, who said, like, yeah, I mean, even if he doesn't come back to what we expect of him, he will give them those kind of goals as the season goes on. And that's the thing from him. I don't expect him to be explosive as he once was. I don't even expect him to just burn players even over 5 yards and have that turn of pace. I expect him to make a difference in the last third when we need somebody who's sharp and who's cute and who's intelligent and who has the technique to make a deciding difference in tough matches where we're playing against teams that are packing the bus. We need him to step up individually with quality and confidence. And so far, that's what I want him to do and be able to do for us and win us those kind of games, not to be a speedster. And that's why I'm a little bit worried that he's been so far from that in terms of looking cute, making a cute turn, making a cute decision or a technical move we wouldn't expect from one of other players. It's been very far from even looking like he had the confidence and rhythm to do that, a speed of mind.
I think his confidence will come back. I think the confidence will, without doubt, come back because he looks so happy and so comfortable, and all the coaches, everyone's talking about it, and it doesn't just click overnight. These things, working in football, confidence is the biggest factor. You can take an average player and they can look amazing just with confidence, and vice versa. So it will come back if he stays fit and he stays in this kind of happy mentality.
Because that shouldn't be dependent. That shouldn't be dependent on explosivity, like speed and explosivity.
Like you said, even if he can't ever reach that speed, that's fine. And I'm not talking about him reaching those speeds, by the way. I'm just talking about a little bit more.
No, I know what you mean.
Change of pace in that kind
being
of
able
first
to
3 or 4 yards
himself.
to get a shot away, to get a cross away, to beat one player, that kind of thing. I think that could still come back with time.
Spurs says you worry too much. Lex's time will come. Come on, Lex, got to be positive.
But I believe in quality. It will come.
Confidence and quality, though. Regulon.
Oh,
we love him, don't we? I mean, there's not much to say on this. He's just been so good. It's not.
I will actually be the devil's advocate here. I do like him, but I think he's done a lot for the team, not just in his own presence, but because it allowed us to go back to a naturally balanced, simpler system that suits us much better. So I think like his signing, just because of what it meant tactically, is maybe one of the most important signings we've made in a long time, especially for Mourinho, because that hybrid was likely not going to work. But for all his strengths, which I do like, and all these kind of things, 2 things. One is he can be a little bit rash because he's aggressive, but he will learn that. And 2, he likes, maybe it's because he's from Spain. He used to play for Real, he used to play for big sides in Sevilla as well, where they're not afraid of playing it short under pressure all the time. But that is not what we're supposed to do with this Mourinho team. And we don't have necessarily the players who are used to doing that. He will play it short under pressure, even though he has the option to cut it back and side shift and play it safe away from pressure into non-pressure zones, which is what we want to do, and then move it quickly into.
But that's also where he might benefit from having.
I don't know. He's been doing it a lot.
Yeah, but he hasn't been there that long. He's not even. He's still not been here a long time.
But he does have a weakness there, and he does need to improve it, because I do agree he's a good player. He looks good.
So I like playing into people's feet, especially into someone like Tongi. You want to attract players towards them. He makes them look a mug, and Reguilon's in behind because he's run off the ball. I love that fizz to a pass. You play it into someone under pressure, but you need to.
You can do it. You have to do it to the right players in the right moments. If you do it continuously, playing it short after 3-4 passes already been made, the whole block is there.
He's not perfect. He's still raw in some areas of his game because but what he does do is his energy and his speed. Oh, I've missed that speed down the flanks. Oh, thank you, God. It's like watching Walker again. Just having someone that can recover at that speed just make such a difference defensively to your team, because even if
we shouldn't be blind. That's what I'm saying. Back in.
No, I'm not. I just think his strengths far outweigh.
And another thing I don't like is we have to remember as well that Davies, again, he's never going to be a Cafu, Davies, but he was also playing that weird hybrid, basically third centre back in the last half a year, 8 months. When he's allowed a more attacking, expansive role, he also looks significantly better. It's not just a competition for places. It's also he's now have a role where you can actually play as a fullback. So I'm saying. I think also we should be a little bit more balanced on both those guys.
I mean, Reguilon already has 5 assists.
One of them is younger, but I'm not like crying out of joy or out of desperation whenever I see one of them play. I mean, like
I'm on the other side of the argument. I think he's a huge upgrade on Davies. I'd say the biggest thing for me, Klaus, when he receives the ball, his body shape is the biggest difference between him and Davies.
Yeah,
his body shape is positive. He wants to go forward. He won't always go forward, but his body shape is positive. And Davies' body shape is always closed. When he does have a good game going forward, it's because he's been more positive. right? But most of the time, Davis, his biggest issue is he closes his shape. So when he receives the ball, and as a fullback, it drives me insane. Is that when I used to play, his body shape's closed to the wing. So he's got to get it. He's got to go backwards because by the time he turns out, he's not really, really quick. So he's lost his chance to go forward. Reguilón tries to take the ball and go forward straight away. It just builds momentum and it helps you go forward. I don't think there's a coincidence that we look more dynamic as a team with him in the side. It transforms the way we play.
For sure, dynamic. I'm just saying it's not always intelligent dynamic.
He's a bit raw at times. Yeah, I totally agree with the aggression. It reminds me a little bit of Danny Rose when he was younger, and he used to dive in constantly, and he'd give himself away sometimes. And then you got to learn. You learn as you get older as a fullback when to go, when not to go, when to hold your position, when to really get tight to someone. But I think he'll learn that over time.
Hopefully. Good player. I mean, he's not 20 though. He is 23, turning 20. Yeah.
23. He's only had 2 full seasons. One at Madrid, one at Sevilla. Come to Premier League. I think.
I hope you're right. But football is always a line of progression. A lot of players never really eradicate the weaknesses. We'll see. I'm just saying. I like him. I think he's important. His arrival was important for other reasons more than just himself, because it allowed us to change certain things. He does need to improve in certain areas. Hopefully, he will. We'll see. I'm just saying for me right now, he's a talent, but one that also costs sometimes, but he also gives sometimes. And we have to take that.
I really like him. I just think, what Klaus said there was, the point that I got was like, yeah, absolutely. We shouldn't build up Reguilón to the level like he's some sort of like demigod.
We should say he's rubbish, so we don't want to sign him. He's
That's
rubbish.
the strategy. That's my idea.
It's terrible. Madrid, what you've done, you've had us over it.
See what I've done? Now you're going to be so happy when he has a good game. You're going to be, it's amazing.
I think, again, Simspur says like he's, maybe David, not a left back. David's a better centre back. Maybe on a left of 3, maybe.
Yeah, back 3, not back 2 after what happened against Antwerp.
But I do think that's probably more his natural position. I think, Reguilón, I think we can all probably agree we're happy. There's obviously going to be some faults, but we're very happy. I think the other summer side, Rodon we've hardly seen. Hart is Hart. He's a backup keeper.
He's done all right. I like his vocality.
Yeah. Vinicius, we've probably not seen as much of. We had quite a
Vinicius, I was really surprised in that first game. He's like kind of link play and stuff was superb. A little bit concerned at some of the misses he's had. I was getting Soldado/Janssen flashes from those, but hopefully he'll bang one in, get a bit of confidence, and because he's new to the league, he's coming late in the day as well, and he has got a lot of pressure on him, I think, because when you come in as a backup to Kane and you come and you play a game instead of Kane, or you come on to him, you're under so much pressure because you're instantly going to get compared to him by everyone, by media, by fans. So it's not a great position to be in as a player. You score a goal and they say, oh, he's done all right, he scored, but Kane scores hat-tricks all over.
He needs a couple of breaks, doesn't he? I mean, he had a bit of influence on the West Brom game because
he did.
When
he did right there.
Again, just because of, another striker on the pitch, he gives us an option. He's done all right. He's done okay. I think, I'm not sure we're looking 40 million level for whatever the permanent signing will be, but...
we'll see over time, I guess.
Let's have a look. Let's see. Moving on, I think if you're going to think about transfer priorities, do you think we'll do much in January? And what if we do you think we might want to do? I
think centre-back's the only one we might look at, but we signed Rodon, so we may not even look at that. But I kind of feel like Sanchez might be the one that might get axed next, whether it's in January or the summer. I think Sanchez.
Players who are non-homegrown for the EL.
How many?
So, and obviously 2 of those are
how many, Chris?
I think it's 20 or 19 or 20.
Right.
We haven't got Gazaniga, Jedson or Rodon registered for the
I think Jedson's going to go in January. I think we're going to cancel his loan.
Anyway, Gazaniga will probably sell if we can, but we're going to have to sell some players. Yeah. We have got too big a squad. It's too imbalanced. I mean, I would be quite happy. I don't think we're going to do much in January, but I would be quite happy to sell a lot of the non-homegrown players and hopefully replace them with a lot of players we've already currently got. We want to see Skip come back in. We want to see players like Clark start getting more opportunities.
Yeah,
we've got Parrott, we've got Sirkin, we've got who else we got? We've got various other players.
We've got a couple of other kids as well. coming through that might do quite well, but there's probably a couple of years away still, I'd say. So you got Divine. Alfie Divine's doing really well. Yeah, he's doing really well.
A few fringe players. I mean, ideally, I'd like to lose Win Coco in midfield and replace one other.
Yeah.
Because I can't. No.
You know what we need to do really is we need to have a third player along. When we see Lo Celso and Ndombele play, they're so comfortable technically, and you just know at some point, hopefully, please God, we'll play them together, right? But we need someone else that can compete with the two of them, so that there's three options for two positions for me.
Yeah,
and it's not Sissoko. It's someone that can.
I think speaking of the forwards before, I think that's one of the things he also gives us. Virginius, what's his name? He gives the option of actually moving Kane into the 10 at times and allowing one of Lo Celso and Ndombele to push into the 8. Yeah. And give us another playmaker. Because the thing is, when you're playing against smaller teams or they're putting under pressure because they're pressing you, you need to add the ball playing capacity in midfield normally. So put in a ball player at 10, put in a ball player at 8, and then maybe have a pure 6. And then our attacking block is pretty gifted on the ball. Regan is pretty good on the ball. That should be enough if we encourage them to play the ball in certain minutes, to be able to do it in terms of personnel. So actually having the second forward that allows Kane to fall deep at times will also allow us that extra man at times that we can push everybody one place down. But I do agree, we need a second 6, because I'm not sure anybody can fill Højbjerg's shoes if he's not there. And but that should be skipped with time. Because
that's a difficult one because you can't sign someone and block skip.
No, that's the thing. Yeah. We need to have, if we want to have a pathway, we need patience for that pathway. And then I think a very big signing will be the next center midfielder we sign. Are we going to sign a complete ball-playing one, or are we going to sign another fucking monster who can make it more of a physical battle, instead of trying to not just make a physical battle but also play the ball out of pressure and control the games?
You know what frustrates me is we talk about like Sissoko's physicality and what he does bring to the table, which is he doesn't stop running for the team since he turned it around. He doesn't stop running. He does get his foot in. He does drive forward at times, but technically, passing wise, control is terrible. But you look at Lo Celso. He's not been fully fit. But when he is fully fit, does he really offer that much less defensively than Sissoko? Because he's tenacious as hell. He gets stuck in. He wins a lot of tackles and interceptions when he's at his best. And so we need someone else along that kind of line that can do a bit of everything.
I called him,
I called him like the ball more, so it makes it,
you don't need to chase the ball as much if you've got possession more.
Exactly.
It just comes down to how the manager sees it. Like some people will have philosophies where they're happier with the ball and some will have it without. Mourinho always struck me as he's happy without the ball, right? But but there's elements to the way we've played so far this season, really good elements, where I thought, well, we look fantastic in possession now. It looks a completely different team. But is that the back of his head always going to come to the front and say, well, no, let's give them the ball now because we're 1-0 up? Is that always going to, because it's his gut? And you can't have a go at him. That's just the way he sees football. I couldn't, as a coach, go in there and be really defensive because it would be against my philosophy. So I'd struggle to do that. Yeah, go on, Chris. Sorry.
Because we're gonna talk about Mourinho in a second, and that might be quite a good place to start off. Just again, Forrest Hudderson's I think he's recently joined. He says seems problematic to get another centre back without selling Sanchez.
Definitely,
probably agree with me. He's got 3.5 years left in his contract, Sanchez. It doesn't seem like he's in the plans at the moment, does he? So that's going to be a worry. But again, it's one of those situations where we've got quite a few bodies. And we need to.
Ideally, we could do with a top-class centre-back. But the thing is, Tanganga's had loads of injury issues, and that's really frustrating because I think he's got massive potential to explode as a centre-back. And then obviously Rodon is untested. Now, Rodon could go in and, from what I've read and from some things I've heard, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes the Premier League quite well and ends up being a good player. So we could be in a position where in 6 months' time, through certain scenarios, Rodon and Tanganga have proven themselves, and we don't look like all of a sudden, we're all right centre back.
No.
So it's a really difficult one. At the moment, if someone said to me, you could sign, I don't know, Upamecano for 45 million in January, potential world class, I'll say, do it. Sell Sanchez, go, do it. But you just don't know how young players, particularly like Tanganga, are going to do if he stays fit and he develops. Like Lex, I know you're a big fan, like me, of Tanganga. I think he's got massive potential if he stays fit. it's a tricky situation we're in with January. I reckon we'll look in the summer to reassess. I don't think we'll do too much incoming wise.
Right.
And I think a centre midfielder will be even much bigger option. Like we need again a complete number 8 who can both.
Do you think
roll up his
Winks or
sleeves.
Sissoko will go first out of the two?
Yeah,
Who do you think we would sell first?
Or they'll just become like a more marginal kind of rotation players, basically.
Who do you think he would sell first, Sissoko or Winks, guys? Not what you would do.
If none of them were homegrown, he might sell the Winks first. Well, Sissoko is older as well. So I think if you look at it, if you consider homegrown status and age, I think Sissoko is more likely to go.
I wondered about budget option. I wondered about Buendia.
I think he would have sold Winks.
I wondered about Buendia at Norwich as a cheaper option because he's got some talent there and he gets stuck in a lot as an all-rounder, but I'm just not sure how good he can be.
I just think with Winks, he's kind of like our Nicky Butt, isn't he? Or like the Fletcher or whatever. He's like this kind of rotational centre midfielder who's bred by the club, who's a homegrown player, who understands what we're about. He will be kept as a even if he doesn't even make it as a first teamer, and then I think he will be kept in general. So the odd man out
Skip will come in and add another homegrown player as well as another option defensively anyway, certainly. But
I think Mourinho likes Sissoko more in terms of physicality and tactical adaptability and mobility. Yep. So he likes these kind of players. He actually does like ball players. He just doesn't use them very expansively, Mourinho. Because if you look at his teams through times, he has actually had quite a few ball players there. He's just frustrating. He doesn't always play very expansively, even with good ball players.
Sissoko's got his place in games. Like even, you play against someone, I don't know, City, for example, away or at home even. You might think, right, well, I could do with that running power in there, in this game. Right?
Yeah,
and
but then you're making it again a level playing field.
Yeah.
You're turning them into what they want, basically.
Are you though? Because you're trying to expose their legs on the counter-attack. So I don't particularly agree with it, but I can see why you'd go do it. I can see it because you're looking to expose them on the transition with power and pace.
Yeah, but
right, boys, I'm going to stop it there. So the Winks Sissoko access, we might have to come on to that another time. We've got a few minutes. Mourinho then, year on, how do you think he's done this season?
I think we're seeing he's changed. He's not the Mourinho used to be. Again, he's added certain things. I said earlier, I think we want a general press higher than we typically used to do in the past. And he's copied elements, I think, especially of Liverpool's game in possession, like the way of trying to play it out of pressure, side shift, and then have like certain frames of attacking plays. So he has evolved somewhat and become a little bit more proactive. But I think we need to wait and see. What does he want to do when the other team is physical? What does he want to do when under pressure? Is he going to muscle up? Is he happy conceding possession? Does he want us to try and play it more? Does he want to try and play more out of pressure like Liverpool does in a very smart manner, Wolves does? Can he make the players do that? Will he play the players necessary to do that has enough ball-playing ability to stay calm? I don't know. I think we can see his ideas, but we haven't been able to execute them fully enough, regularly enough, especially not in the last 3 or 4 games.
Against like a Man City or against Liverpool. I just don't see it.
No.
I just don't see him having that bravery to do that.
Exactly. But even against the more physical sides, he will be more tending to muscle up than to stay with the playing power. And I think, and will that make his philosophy, the way he wants us to play, unlikely to be regularly put into place enough? Or will it become more like Brighton games where somebody gets at us, we're going to have too many muscly players and too little composure, and we're going to end up standing too low and launching it. So I think we're seeing his ideas, which have become better than it used to be, and which are quite clear for the team. I think now we need to see if we have players who are capable of staying fit and elusive of mind to put that into play regularly enough, and if whenever he feels we're threatened, will keep having enough good ball players to execute that style of play. Or if he's going to revert to Sissoko and we're going to lose our composure and we're going to stand too deep and launch it. So I think it's split. I'm a little bit split on Mourinho. I like some of the things I think he's progressed on, but I'm not sure he will play the right players to execute at the right level often enough. And we'll see about that.
I think Everton game was terrible. Whole team was terrible. Manager was terrible. Everything was just poor. Now, some of that I think might have been disruption in the pre-season. I know they were similar to us, and they played well. But I didn't think they were that great personally, Everton. I didn't think they were as good as people made out.
No, I don't think either.
I thought the game was just terrible, and it could have easily been a boring 0-0, dour 0-0. I really got encouraged by the few games after that. Even that the Newcastle game, we were robbed, but I thought we were outstanding. United, we were outstanding. Southampton, after a shaky 20 minutes or so, we started to come into the second half. We were fantastic. West Ham, first half, brilliant. And then the last two games, I know we've won, and obviously delighted every time we win, but I've seen it before. I've seen this story before. When you win too many games where you're not playing well at all, and there's no structure and there's a lack of a plan, that's when you should worry. Not when you play Newcastle, we played well, we didn't take our chances. So you can say, well, we didn't play well because we didn't take our chances. But at least you can say, well, the structure was there, the pattern was there, the game plan was there. We just didn't have that final bit. Right? But the West Brom and the Brighton games, I think the same as you, Chris. Like, we have to show, if we're going to compete, if we're going to try and win the league or even be right up there, we have to show the ability to control elements of games, even if it's for 20 minutes.
Yeah, and you can do it by doing as Pool or Wolves, like playing it out of pressure. You don't have to play it inside the tightest areas. You can play cleverly but you need players who will stick to that plan, that system of play, as you're saying. This was like,
and he worries
the system
me
is there. The shape is there. The idea is there, and it's better than it used to be under Mourinho as well.
It is better.
But we're not
definitely better than it was.
Showing it. We're not showing that we can do it for 90 minutes, especially not regularly, especially not the last 4 or 5 games. And I don't know why that is, and that makes me a little bit worried. Is it tiredness?
You know what? 90 minutes is
lack confidence? Is it his selections?
Even doing it for 60 minutes. If we do it for 60 against the majority of teams in this league, if you play really well,
enough to close it. Yeah.
If you do really well, if you play really well for 25 minutes in this league, the majority of teams you will beat. And then the rest of the game you can play a more solid, a more, a less expansive, a less, exciting game. If you play well for 25 minutes and you really take it to them, and then you just play out the rest of the game with some element of control, you'll beat the majority of teams, because the league is very open, but that is it. With some elements of control. Those are the key words. We've been put in situations where we lose that element of control to a certain extent lately. Where we go too deep. West Ham game is a great example.
West Ham was also weird. I think Brighton was a better example of that, where we started losing the imprint of play we want to have, the element of control we want to have, where we want to be defending, not too low, not too many high balls into our area with the people crowding the box.
West Ham, we sat deeper and deeper and deeper, I thought. The last 10 minutes, we were right in our own box. And that's exactly what they want. They wanted us to go that deep so they could just pump the ball in and get free kicks and win set pieces around the area. Why did we do it? The best way we could have won that game and seen that game out, even at 3-1, even at 3-2, but then it becomes much more of a momentum's gone at 3-2 and you're in panic stations. But at 3-1, you keep the ball in your middle third and your final third, and you make them chase. And if the ball's going to go out, you put it out for throwing in their half.
But Nick,
in their half.
I do think that's the plan. But I think against West Ham, it was a little bit mental. Like, they got this free goal and then its own goal, and then we lost our composure. I think that was very much like a meltdown psychologically. But I think we're seeing the last 3 or 4 games, we're seeing it happen regularly now for longer periods. And again, we're losing the expression of the game we want, because we don't want to be defending that low. I'm quite sure Mourinho doesn't want that.
I'd love to be in the dressing room. I really would, to listen.
This is what I'm saying. I think we're not expressing what we want to do. Even when we want to close off games, we're not even, because that needs to be controlled. Like I said, not too deep, with a counter system in place that we can punish them and close it off for real.
Keep threatening for the whole time. So
and my question is, why is that? I'm not so worried about if there is a system and if the system is decent, because I think there is, and it is, and it's also being implemented quite well on the training pitch. My worry is we're not able to sustain it for full amount of games, even sometimes from the get-go, if they come at us quickly, aggressively. And why is that? That's a huge question. It's a huge question, and hopefully we'll get some good answers on that coming up in terms of its tiredness, its selections.
Anything, in all honesty, I think that the whole league's been so inconsistent, even within games, in different games, and I think that's because all the situation's so strange.
I will say this, Chris. Any team that finds a decent level of consistency, puts a run together, is going to win this. Is going to win this league.
I mean,
barring Liverpool and City going on a freak run like they've done in the past, I don't see it this year.
Most likely in terms of what they've got. I mean, Man City have been pretty poor, but by their standards, and Liverpool haven't been great. But
they're always going to be in and around it. But I worry about Leicester. I'm starting to worry about Leicester, man.
As well so far, I think.
Yeah, but
they have, but they've not got. I tell you why I'm worried.
So sure.
Ndidi has been out injured, and normally without Ndidi they fold. Yet without him, they're top, and that worries me a bit because hopefully they'll die out as Rodgers' teams tend to die out late in the season. Like March, April, May, they collapse.
He is impressing. I hope he's on our shortlist. I hope Roger, we're keeping it. I think he's.
If he can learn how to manage a late season, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see this year.
One thing I thought, and I don't know if we're going to sort of be able to prove this one way or another. I mean, early on, Mourinho struggled to know what team to put out because we had a lack of players due to injury and lack of quality. Now I'm not sure he knows what team to put out because we have so many options and different strengths, weaknesses, positives, minus. And I still think we're in that transitional period very much. I know it's been a calendar year, but it's been the weirdest calendar year. And I think, he's an experienced manager. He hopefully will still be able
Could be an element of luck, Chris. Sometimes, managers stumble upon things. Like he might play Lo Celso and Ndombele or bring them on into the same midfield because we need it. We go on to win that game, and so he starts it in the following game, and all of a sudden he thinks, "Oh, this midfield works," and he stumbles upon it.
Of that, wasn't it? I mean,
Redknapp was a perfect example of that.
Loads of coaches do it. It's the same when they
Redknapp stumbled upon pushing Bow into left midfield, and then Aaron came back in at right wing, and he thought, "Well, got to play them both, so I put them both there." So I put Modric inside and I play him in the middle, and all of a sudden, oh God, we look like a top 4 team.
Well, if you remember correctly, he said after the FA Cup semi-final we lost to Portsmouth, he said, quote, Modric can play centre midfield at a push. So it was because Palacios was suspended and he had to play Huddleston and Modric. And all of a sudden, we had a brilliant midfield because we pushed up Bale because of injuries.
I used to tear my hair out because I was saying to people before Modric, like when Modric signed, saying, "This guy is a centre midfielder. We've got an elite centre midfielder here." And we kept playing left midfield. And he played a couple of times in the centre, but he didn't have a proper partner with him. That was he needed someone alongside him to complement him. A bit like Tongi needs Højbjerg. I think they complement each other perfectly. And eventually we got the balance right. He stumbled upon it, Chris, though. He stumbled upon it, and it's that bit of luck. If we can stumble upon the right formula, it may the problem is start enough.
There is a problem in terms of, but there's a problem, I think. This is why I say when we talk about transfers, for me, the biggest transfer is not a centre-back. It's a centre midfielder. We need another ball-playing number 8. Even if we say, okay, Skip is our pathway academy product for the 6, and we have to be patient and wait for him to come back and not spend money there. What do you got? If you, let's say you start Ndombele and Lo Celso, one is a 10, one is a 8. Who's on the bench then?
Yeah, and what do you do if it's not working in that game? You've got no option to.
One of us has a bad game, gets injured, whatever, but you want to maintain that balance. We cannot maintain that balance if anything happens to one of them, unless we then put in Kane at the 10, put in Machines at the 9, and then push the remaining.
If Dele was playing better and showing that he could play as a more all-round centre midfielder, then we could do that. But Dele's really fallen off a cliff at the moment, so it's not an option.
As it is right now, we don't have again, and then we return to, can we then express the style of play we want to regularly enough if we want to be able to stay cool and composed and play in a certain way under pressure? Do we have enough ball-playing number 8s, enough ball-playing centre midfielders that will stay calm enough, play the ball the right way, to be able to express what we want to express under pressure against physical opponents, people who will be testing us? We might have a starting 11 that can do it. I'm not so sure we have the bench that can do it in centre midfield. And I think if I was Mourinho, I'd be looking.
Yeah, definitely.
I would be looking at a physical, of course, but a clever, composed ball-playing
all-round, a bit of an all-rounder. Yeah,
like Ndombele. Ndombele is one of the best in Europe in terms of talent, but the same type, Barella of Inter, even though it's a small guy, would be perfect. Like a number 8 who has personality,
Aouar
at Lyon.
Aouar.
I haven't watched him that much, but if it was me, I'd get Barella, but I don't think we can get Barella.
Very quickly. Sim Spurs is picking me up on stuff. How dare he? I think we can win start in 11 bar only a centre back. Yeah, I think we probably could. I'm just not sure with the options available at each particular point or fitness at the moment. I think was probably but I do agree with you. We need to see
Lo Celso fully fit and sharp, and then we can judge. If we still don't pick the two of them together, he don't want to do it.
Yeah,
Simple as that.
Finally, to wrap up, Blimey, the light again.
Yeah.
I think we've got a tough run, 7 games. How many points are we getting, Nick?
I was negative on COYS, and the reason for that was the performances have worried me. And because of that, I think I said 8 points. But I do believe we've got the capability of doing very well because I think the league is open. I think all those teams are beatable now. So I'm going to say 8 points based off our performances. Based off our performances in the last 3 games, I'm worried. I hope.
That's what I'm saying as well. Exactly.
So I'm going 8, which is bad. But yeah.
8. No. In the next 7 Premier League games.
In the next 7, yeah, Chris. Based
I think we're going to get
on COYS, right? Yeah, I've gone 8.
I think we're going to get around 12. Around 12.
Okay. Well, Betty says none. Simspur says 21. No. I'm going to go somewhere between there.
Bob's a proper Spurs fan there, 0. I thought I was being bad. 21. Right. Sim's literally the 2 ends of the scale here. 0, 21.
Right, guys. Are we going to wrap it up there? I think that's all. Thank you very much to everyone. Thanks to our panel. Thanks everyone for joining us. Cheers all. Take care.
Cheers, guys. See you later.
Ciao.
Right.